Alright, now I'm going to do problem number 3 of the law of cosines ditto. And this one is when you're given 3 sides, side, side, side. So I'm going to put the formula back up here, and you can see we are about to solve for an angle, and the angle is going to go here. So it's important to remember that this angle and this side are opposite one another. So I can choose to solve for any angle on this triangle, but let me give you this piece of advice. Always try to solve for the biggest angle first. If that angle, which is this angle here, angle C, is bigger than 90 degrees, then when you go to do law of sines, you'll get it wrong. And we'll talk about that later. Just trust me on that one for now. So when you use law of cosines and you're trying to find an angle, choose the biggest angle. So since I'm going to choose to solve for this angle here, the first side I write is the side opposite it, which is the 28. So 28 squared is equal to the 15 and the 17 go next, and it doesn't matter which one you write first since they're being added. And there's where our unknown is. Now, this type of operation leads to a very, very common error. So let me give you an example of much easier numbers of the error that takes place. So let's pretend we're solving an equation, and I'll just put simple numbers here. 10 is equal to 2 plus 3 minus 2 times, I don't know, 4x. So I've tried to give you something that's in the form of the problem right here. And the biggest issue I have here, so let me tidy this up here. 2 plus 3 minus, this would be 8x. The biggest error is for somebody thinking that you can combine all these numbers here. And it will be tempting, but you can't do it. These numbers can't be combined. That 8 is connected to the x. These guys right here are connected to the x. And you can't combine like terms. Those aren't like terms. Well, the problem we're about to do, these 3 numbers here are connected to the unknown, cosine C. So the biggest temptation is to take these 2 numbers and combine them with this number. And you can't do that. That's a big no-no. It's like combining these 2 numbers here with the 2 and that 4. Okay, so hopefully stay away from that. But a lot of times what people will do is take the 28 and square it and figure out what all those numbers are squared. So 28 squared is 784. 15 squared is 225. 17 squared is 289. And then there's a lot of people who multiply those together. So 2 times 15 times 17 is 510 minus 510 cosine C. Okay, now these 2 numbers here need to be moved to the other side. We need to start working on getting this C by itself. So all of this stuff needs to be moved to the other side. The order is to subtract these 2 numbers to the other side, then divide by negative 510. Since it's connected to cosine with multiplication, we're going to divide to get rid of it. And then we're going to do inverse cosine to get rid of the word cosine. So those are our 4 steps. So I'm going to head to my calculator right now and just type in the 784, and now I'm going to subtract 225. And I have 559. I'm also going to subtract, just to save some step because it's very squishy here, 289. So now I'm looking at 270 equals negative 510 cosine C. This is where we divide to get rid of that negative 510. So 270 divided by negative 510. And there's that cruddy decimal. If you end up writing down that cruddy decimal, make sure you don't type it. Right now it says negative 0.529 blah blah blah. Don't hit clear. Right now we want to get rid of the word cosine, so I'm going to hit inverse cosine, and so I don't have any round off error. I'm going to use the previous answer. No error. 121.9 965, and this ditto again is round to the nearest tenths, so it looks like we're going to exactly 122. Angle C is equal to 122 degrees. Okay, so we have that biggest angle down there. Now, I have a lot of students who like Law of Cosines. They don't mind doing this, so they start all over again. They pick another angle, and they do Law of Cosines all over again. And that's totally fine to do. There's nothing against that. Some people don't like to do all this work. Some people love Law of Sines. And you're allowed to do Law of Sines right now. So, if we were doing Law of Sines, after the word sine goes the angle. That's the 122. The side opposite the 122 is the 28. And that ratio is equal to sine of another angle. So we can either choose A or B. It doesn't matter. I'm going to choose B for no good reason. On top of 17. Here's what I noticed. The book, this ditto, when it gives the answer key, uses 122. So it's going to give an answer based on solving this problem with 122. The right thing to do is to use this number here, not the 122, but to use the exact angle that we got from our calculator earlier. So, I showed you how to store earlier. We can do this problem without storing. Right now, if I cross-multiply this problem, I'd have 17 times sine of 122, which I'm not going to use, but I'll show you that here in a second, is equal to 28 times sine B. At this point, we would divide both sides by 28 to get rid of that 28. Punch all this on our calculator, and then we're going to hit inverse sine. So when I go to punch this on my calculator, seeing as how I still have that 121 still on my screen, I'm going to hit 17 times sine, and not use 122, use the previous answer. That way I don't have any round off error. I like to hit equals after I do the numerator, and then I'll divide by the 28. So that's what all of that is, and that's exact. There's no round off error there. And now I have to take the inverse sine of that. So inverse sine, second sine of the previous answer. Again, no round off error. And that's 31 even. So angle B is 31 even. So now we have two angles, and the third angle is just found by subtracting those from 180. So 180 minus 122 and minus 31 leaves 27 for the last angle. Okay.